This is a fast f1.4 wide-angle prime lens that only costs $118 and it has full metal construction. Is it a great bargain or it's just too good to be true? Let's find out in this review. Kia ora, good morning everyone, Rajawan here, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to have a look at this TTArtisan 17mm f1.4 lens. This is the third fast prime lens that TTArtisan designed for APS-C mirrorless cameras. The other two are 35mm f1.4 and the 50mm f1.2, which I have also reviewed on this channel a little while ago. This TTArtisan 17mm f1.4 lens is available in Canon EOS M, Sony E, Fujifilm X, and Nikon Z mounts, and there's also a Micro Four Thirds version as well. The lens has a full frame equivalent focal length of around 25-26mm when you use it on an APS-C camera, so this is not really a very common focal length in the traditional photography world. But these days, this is the exact same focal length as the main camera on a lot of the smartphones. So if you're not too sure whether you will like this focal length or not, just check if your phone has the 26mm equivalent focal length on the main camera and you will get roughly the same field of view. It is a pretty compact lens and the weight is only 248 grams even though the lens body is made of metal. This is fully mechanical, so there's no electronic contacts, no autofocus, no optical image stabilizer. The lens also has a pretty unusual shape and design. One thing I really like is the drawing of the lens on the body. Not only it shows you the optic design of the lens, it just looks very cool and very unique as well. The lens comes with a metal lens cap, but there's no lens hood. I really wish there is a lens hood that comes with the lens, but I will talk about that a little bit later. The letters and the graphics on the lens are all just printed on it, so they are not engraved, which is normal for a lens at this price. It is a budget lens after all, so there are few things that reflects the price. The aperture ring is located at the front of the lens, and yes, it has clicks. There is a click at every half stop, and it is something that I really want to praise TTArtisan. This is opposite to most other Chinese optics manufacturer. They usually prefer to use a declicked aperture ring for some reason, but for photographer, I definitely prefer to have clicks on the aperture ring. The aperture ring feels really nice, and the clicks feels also a little bit better than the previous TTArtisan lens that I've tried before. Behind the aperture ring, we have the manual focus ring, and it is a pretty big manual focus ring because most part of the lens is the manual focus ring. But there is also an extruded gear ring for you to grab and turn the manual focus ring easily. The focus flow is around 135 degrees, and the focus ring feels very smooth, very well dampened. It's also quite easy to nail the focus even when I'm shooting at f1.4. The lens has a slightly unusual 40.5mm front filter thread, which is different to the 39mm front filter that is used on the 35 1.4 lens or the 52mm filter that is used on their 50 1.2 lens. Now, while there is nothing wrong at all for different lenses that use a different filter thread, but I feel TTArtisan could have made this lens and their 35 1.4 lens to use the same filter size, as they are just 1.5mm different, so they're almost the same. If they make it the same for these two lenses, it would benefit users who are buying both lenses. If you have a look at Panasonic, they not only design all their 4 f1.8 lenses to have the exact same filter size, they even make the lens to have the same physical size, and the focus ring is at the same position and it has similar center of gravity. I'm not suggesting TTArtisan need to do exactly the same thing because it would create some limitations on how you can design the lenses. But if you do that, it does bring many advantages to the users and make them more likely to buy more than one of the lens in the same series. But I would certainly like to see the newer Chinese manufacturers to have a more cohesive plan when they are designing their products in the future. The minimum focus distance of this lens is 20 cm and the distance is approximately 15 cm from the front of the lens to the subject when you are shooting at the minimum focus distance. The manufacturer didn't specify what is the maximum magnification ratio, but look at my usual Lego test photo shot at the minimum focus distance. The magnification is not really that high, maybe around 0.1 times. But on the other hand, the image sharpness is not bad at all when shooting at the minimum focus distance at the maximum aperture. Now let's have a look at the image sharpness. At the maximum aperture f1.4, the center is quite usable, but I would not say it is very sharp. Also, the contrast is slightly low as well. Once stop down to f2, then the sharpness, contrast all improve quite a lot. Then if you further stop down the lens, there is not much difference because the center was already really good at f2. And now let's have a look at the corner. At f1.4, oh boy, it is really quite soft. Stop down, each stop would improve the corner image quality a bit, and at f5.6, finally the corner becomes reasonably sharp. And if you further stop down the lens, the corner sharpness remains very similar until you gone past f11 and diffraction kicks in and they will start soften the image again. Because it is a 17mm lens for APS-C camera, so you need to shoot at a pretty close-up distance if you want to dissolve the background. When you do that and shooting at the maximum aperture f1.4, bokeh looks quite nice, pretty smooth and not too nervous. Once you stop down to f2, the bokeh ball starts to turn into polygon shape. And as you stop down further, you can now see the vertices of the bokeh quite easily. This TTArtisan 17mm f1.4 lens has reasonably good vignetting control. At f1.4, there is some vignetting, but it's not too severe at all. Stop down to f2 would reduce that a lot, and from f2.8 onwards, there is only some minor vignetting remaining, and that probably is not noticeable in normal photos. Chromatic aberration is average with this 17mm lens. Quite often I can see some, but not excessive amount of color fringing in my photos. My local test photo also shows a bit of longitude chromatic aberration as well. Look at this brick wall photo, you can see a bit of distortion, and I also noticed similar amount of distortion in my real world photo as well, but I think it is not too bad for a wide angle lens. In terms of lens flare, while there are certainly many lenses that has worse lens flare performance than this TTArtisan lens, I would say it is still pretty average even if I take into consideration the budget price of this lens. When there's a strong light source, I quite often would see a bit of lens flare, and the lens flare doesn't look too pleasing to my eyes. The lens also suffers a bit if there's a bright light source that is just outside the frame. The contrast would drop quite a bit, either caused by the lens flare or maybe there's some internal reflection inside the lens. Now, since this lens doesn't come with any lens hood, so maybe you can get an aftermarket lens hood that screws onto the front filter thread. Otherwise, use your hand to block the light source would definitely help as well. If you want to capture Sunstars with this TTArtisan lens, you need to stop down to at least f8. The reason is, even at f5.6, the tail of the Sunstars would spread out like a fan shape instead of having a pointy, sharp tail. So unless you like Sunstars that has a fan-shaped tail, you would be shooting between f8 to f16 if you want to have Sunstars in your photo, and you can get some pretty nice looking Sunstars in the photo. If you want to use this lens to shoot some astro photos, there would be a bit of Coma at the corner of the photo. The amount of coma I think is acceptable for a budget lens and it's probably okay for casual use as well, but this is not the lens that I would recommend for serious astrophotography. This TTArtisan 17mm f1.4 lens has quite small amount of focus briefing. This is a test video that I changed the focus distance from around 0.5 meter to infinity and then come back to 0.5 meter. The amount of focus briefing is at a pretty low level. Okay, so what are my thoughts about this lens and would I recommend this lens to you guys? I think if you are someone who are most interested in capturing photos with perfect image quality, you want great sharpness from the center to the corner, you want great color, you don't want lens flare, then I would not recommend this lens to you at all. This is not a lens that you could replace the first party wide angle lens if you want really good image quality. However, if the shooting experience is important to you and you care more about the artistic look of the photo rather than the pixels, then this is a pretty cheap lens that you may enjoy. I myself quite enjoy shooting with this lens. Despite there are some flaws in the image quality, it's very fun to shoot with. I love its solid build quality. I love the aperture range that has very satisfying clicks, and I also like the compact size of this lens. The photos, the colors are not very saturated and also a little bit low contrast as well, but it does give the photos a bit of vintage look, which I personally quite like.